It wasn't thunder.
You hear it?
No, it was just it's my stomach rumbling.
Oh. All right, now fix your eye, fix your head. No cough not coming out. Yes. See, I do everything for you, little man. Yes. This little old bunny, I look after you, little man. You don't do a thing. Go to bed. You go straight to bed, don't you? Look. Cancel your car. Why not so? Yeah. It's getting out.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello, Mike. This is Kevin, obviously.
Hi, how are you?
I'm all right, and yourself?
Yes, good, thank you.
It's good to see you in this virtual space.
Exactly, absolutely, yes.
And I take it everything's under control. The fact I didn't hear from you for a good
10 minutes.
4 hours, I'm taking it. It's all well, was it?
Yes, I think so, because I've just seen that Leo has taken it live onto Facebook. I haven't checked.
Great. Is there anything I need to do? Do I need to make you a co-host? I think it would be a good idea if I did.
Yeah, by all means, but no, it shouldn't matter. You control it as you normally do.
Yeah, it's always nice to have a co-host. So
fine.
Just in case I need to go somewhere or there's somebody I don't know and you need to get rid of or something. Yeah, it's just good.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah, so obviously you run yours a bit different to ours, is that right?
Well, so we've done it both ways. Our normal Shabbat morning services, Rabbi Pete normally just streams straight to Facebook.
Right.
For our bar mitzvahs, we've used Zoom.
Okay.
But also streamed it to Facebook for people who want to watch but not participate.
Okay, yeah. But the problem that I get, you don't know the numbers, do you? Or you at the time anyway?
No, exactly. Well, you have a rough idea, because what we've normally done is we've invited the family to the bar mitzvah family to invite their friends onto Zoom, and the rest of the congregation just watching it on Facebook.
Oh, there's different ways. Listen, there's so many different ways of doing it.
There's so many different ways of doing it.
Yeah. I kind of like the visual presence. That's the thing. I know some people are not so keen on, and that's just my preference.
Exactly. And equally, when we do it, we normally just stream. I mean, after the beginning, when everybody said hello and Shabbat Shalom, we actually always switch to speaker view.
Right.
So that the stream gets the speaker view rather than the gallery view.
Okay, yes.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, Rachel.
Hi, Mike.
Good morning, Rachel.
We always have the gallery view on. Well, we always
I
have
like it.
the view on
Like the Brady Bunch, remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, quite.
Because we
It's
all
just
like
different
seeing each other.
preferences. It's just different preferences.
It is, everyone's got their own way to do it, but it's always interesting to hear how communities do it. And there's advantages and disadvantages. I would say this way is the right way of doing it. But as I was thinking, this is like a just rehearsal for the High Holy Days in a way, isn't it?
It is a little bit, although I was chatting to Pete about that yesterday, and I think we do need to think about it potentially differently with, you know, with 200 or whatever families
Yes.
on, then I'm not sure grid view Zoom works, and with multiple speakers. So I think we need to think about that differently.
Yeah, well, I think that could be a conversation for another time. We'll see how this works. I realise that we need to get our heads together on the best platform, but
Exactly.
well, let's get today out of the way.
Can you make me and Pete co-hosts?
Oh yeah, of course. I've already made. Yep. Of course. So you'll be doing a lot of screen sharing, I guess. Co-host. There you are. Let's make this co-host.
Lovely.
That's you done. Yeah. So I keep labelling this one, but I loved it last night with actual nobody muted. It really worked well. I didn't think it could work.
Oh, well, it was nice. I hope that the people on live streaming found it okay. It wasn't too sort of noisy and
yeah, it was.
cacophonous.
I know if there's any more, it wouldn't work. But so long as you weren't too put off by hearing the background noises.
No, well, because when I'm singing, I can't really hear anyone else. So,
Oh right.
I mean, I could hear a little bit. Oh golly, it says my internet connection is unstable.
Oh
That's not
no! Panic!
I've never had it say that before.
Oh, it's all good.
Yeah. Oh well.
We'll just have to. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's as long as you're
Oh,
not
well.
unstable.
At least Pete's there. He can do the rest of the service.
Exactly. Something before.
I
Yeah,
disappear.
remember like last week, Andrew Goldstein. He lost his connection, didn't he? And we sort of managed to get by.
Yeah. I've never had that though here. Oh well.
Well, we've got a rabbi on staff. That's the advantage of having two rabbis in the house. If one person breaks down, all connection.
That's true.
Something
That's
like that.
true.
Otherwise, it would probably be have to take the service, and I don't think you'd want that. You really wouldn't.
Yes. That's weird.
It's all we got Hannah here.
Oh, well, let's hope it's wrong.
That's Steve.
That's definitely not Hannah.
We could have my usual conversation. Hannah, mute yourself. It's kind of.
Right, I'm just going to go get a glass of water.
Yes, I'm going to duck out for a few minutes. I will
Yeah,
see you
so
a
long
bit
as you're
before
here,
11.
that's the most important thing. Don't go too far.
No, I will see you a bit before 11. But
Yeah. Okay.
we're now. I mean, Leo has done his thing, and we're streaming onto the TLSE page as well, so that's fine.
So it's everything's fine. Everything's fine your end. It's all
Yeah.
under control.
Yeah.
And we've got Hannah here. If Hannah remembers to unmute herself. Mute. Use your conversation, Hannah. Unmute yourself. Hannah, press the unmute button. Hannah, you know what to do. I can't hear a word you're saying.
So, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. We get there in the end. We have the same conversation every time.
I know, because I have to press extra things to get it.
Oh, well, you've got your hair now. We can see you. We can see
But I
you.
hear and see. That's wonderful. Good morning and Shabbat Shalom, Ken.
Shabbat Shalom. We've got an exciting service today. We've got.
I'm looking forward to it very much. And I saw Rabbi Rachel's note in the.
Yes, because it wasn't well publicised in the synagogue. It was just hidden in the corner, which is not good. But anyway.
Responsible for that. You know what should be publicised. But I hope lots of people saw it.
Yeah, well, listen, I don't think we'll lose it. It's just nice to get a bit public. Yeah, we're doing something a bit different, and
I'm looking forward to it immensely, actually.
I am too. And don't forget, we've got the High Holy Days as a collaborative thing. So this is sort of how it's. Well, and don't worry, we're not going to use Jam Kazam because that's not good for my blood pressure.
That's a decision that's definitely set.
Yeah, no, that won't happen. So, but it's good to get the combination. Even though I've already got rid of 2 of the Elstree members, Rachel, what I said, I promise.
Hello, Hannah. Shabbat shalom.
I did take my stump pill this morning.
Now, I don't think we're going to use Jam Kazam even for a Shabbat service until we've got it working better.
Exactly.
If it did work, it would be absolutely wonderful.
Oh gosh, it is. That's the pity about it. It is the best form when it works.
Absolutely.
It's sad we have got so many good, talented choristers, and we can only use one at a time. That is one sad thing that we.
No, it's a shame.
We just have to work the best way we can.
Is it all on screen?
No,
Or
it's sort of
in the book? Okay. And
I'm
okay.
looking forward to seeing Rabbi Pete, because
Yeah.
not the last sabbatical, but the one before that Frank was on, he and I kept meeting at funerals. We
Oh
had a
gosh.
little time, and we used to have a little chat after each one. And he kept saying, "We can't keep meeting like this."
Oh,
He was so helpful.
yeah, good. I remember from the biennials I always went to one of his talks at the biennials. He was
They're always very interesting, lively.
Yeah, he's still good, and he's on my wavelength humour-wise, which I don't know if that's a good thing or not. And I used to hear him. He used to do on Radio 2, the Thought for the Day. Remember on Radio 2, you had to have a.
He came to talk to us at our show a while back, and I had a copy of his book that he wrote, which is very
Right.
I caught a glimpse of Harry there.
Harry, we can see Harry's arm. Harry, your arm's looking very nice. You're, oh gosh, too much information.
Hello, Shabbat Shalom, Harry.
Good morning, Shabbat Shalom.
Good morning. Oh, yeah, I remember waking up to Pete Tobias on Radio 2. Have you ever done that before, Rachel? The Thought for the Day for radio?
No, I haven't actually.
No, there's quite a few rabbis out there.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, you're loud and clear. You're absolutely
loud and clear.
Excellent.
So far, so good.
So, who's reading the
community?
The community.
Yeah, that's the only one. I'm going to ask Adrian. I think it's good if our chairman does it when he arrives. So unless we get a surprise guest to.
Yeah, and Stephen is doing Haftarah lessons.
Yeah, he'll be fine. He'll be. He's got your printout or your. All in hand.
I have no idea. I think it's 16,
well
18.
Machine.
What is the
Shoftim. It's Shoftim, so it begins on chapter 16, verse 18.
18?
Yeah.
So.
Just going to make sure that my screen share works okay.
Yes, it's good to do the test now.
Yep.
Excellent. That's good. So I do like, I think I've said this before, I do like screen sharing rather than following a book. It's just more relaxed. I'm all going like this and this.
No, exactly. People's heads are up.
Like this, I'm all very relaxed.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, I just kind of,
Yeah. The only problem is you can't see everyone. But I think certainly the advantages on a Friday night for the Reform and Liberal are huge, because that's what I found so distracting was all the different page number announcements. Yeah.
So where's Peter? Where's we hidden Peter? Is that actually that Peter's backdrop? Is that actually?
He's actually at the synagogue.
Oh, right, I was wondering.
Because he's going to get the scroll out.
Oh, really? Oh, gosh, to see a scroll live.
Yeah.
And is he there on his own, or are they allowed a few people?
He's on his own.
He's on his own.
Right. Okay.
How's Penny, Mike?
Very well, thank you.
Good, excellent.
Yes. She'll be tuning in, I think, on Facebook. She tends to use Radio Elstree on a Shabbat morning.
Oh, you call it Radio Elstree. Yeah. Hannah explained that they use another form. So if you don't see many Elstree people here, they're on like a Facebook kind of feed. So it's two different things. So it's not the actual numbers you're seeing Zoom. It's not necessarily the numbers watching. We've got, as you've seen, we've got our live stream as well as some people that prefer just to watch and not
Exactly.
good on
It's
that.
exactly the same. It's exactly the same.
Have you seen Pete, actually?
Yeah.
Is he there?
Yeah.
Well, I assume he's there.
That's always a good start when the rabbis are present.
Yeah, that was it's always really on the choristers. The
No,
last time,
saying that our internet was unstable.
yeah, well, you could go.
Slightly worried. I've never had that before.
You could come around here, Rachel. I don't live far from you.
Maybe I better pop up to Elstree to the synagogue.
Oh, Elstree, yeah, hey, we've got Peter.
Hey, Rabbi Pete.
A real live Rabbi Pete on mute.
Morning, Pete.
Best thing for him. Hiya. Hey.
There's some Liverpool supporters sitting there as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I know.
Who's
Hello.
the supporter?
I didn't send you commiserations, but
too.
you
Can
can
you hear
have.
me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you not
I
hear
can only
us?
read your lips.
Who's having a beer already?
Well, we're not muted, Pete. Oh, he can't hear us, Mike. Why is that?
I'm still only reading your lips, but they're very readable. This is today's Kiddush wine. Just
Oh,
so you know.
tango.
Tango.
I'll
Trouble.
join you because it takes two to tango. He laughs
It's
at my
clearly a
job.
problem at his end. I mean, 'cause the
Yeah.
rest of us
I'll
can
give
hear
up my
each other.
daytime job.
So.
The last time I was at Elstree Synagogue was for an inter-synagogue quiz.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we
None
came
of
up.
us is muted. Because I've muted my computer.
Bad memories.
Okay, that's
Right. Can you hear us now?
Elstree used to always do well at these quizzes, didn't they?
Can you hear us now, Pete?
I can, but it was not.
Oh.
Let me read your lips. I suppose unmuting my computer might be the key.
Might.
How are you doing this morning?
Fine. Had a tot service to which some tots actually turned up, which was quite an achievement.
Good.
And now we're having an adult service to which some adults may turn up. So
Well, no, I've replaced it. We like children as well. I think your tots will be better behaved than us.
I'm saying nothing.
Oh, here comes Val.
No.
Here comes Val, indeed.
And Leo has done his thing. We are live on the Facebook stream, so you don't need to worry about it.
I was.
Hello, everybody on Elstree Facebook. You can't see. Oh, who have we got here?
Oh,
Shoved in the garden.
that's Leo, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, Leo.
Oh, Leo.
Oh,
You're
Leo
muted,
on mute. Oh, he can make the schoolboy error.
Just be aware you are live on all
Yes,
social
I-
media channels already.
Yeah.
We are. Hello, Joe Jones, who's watching.
Hello,
on
Mosaic
Facebook.
Liberal. Gosh, we just.
I know you're also live on all Liberal Judaism channels. You've gone
All
live.
Liberal Judaism
Oh,
channel.
well, careful what we say then.
I didn't comb my hair. I'm kidding.
Gosh.
Well, nothing new there.
I
then.
better put some trousers on.
It's not necessary. We can't see them. It's okay. Just sit still.
Hello, Val. Are you there?
I think she's just warming up.
Oh, okay. Hi, Joseph.
Hello.
How are you? Shabbat
I'm
shalom.
okay. How are you doing?
Good. Yes. All right. Thanks. Hey, Joseph. What's our concluding song?
I'm gonna do Yari Bon.
Yari Bon. Excellent.
If you've got a coat, Jenny.
Do I sound okay to everybody?
Yep.
Yeah.
You do play a bit more.
A little bit more.
La 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 la.
Can't hear
Perfect.
words. I can't hear
Beautiful
words.
and perfect. Right. What page is Yari Bon on here?
647.
647. Thanks.
And which service is it, everybody?
Well, it's service number. Well,
Great.
it's on page 117, but we're only doing the first page before we
Oh.
go to Yishtabach.
Okay. Fine.
We've got,
Hello, Janet. Shabbat shalom.
hello, Janet.
Shalom.
Yeah,
Hello,
Alan, Alan
hello
from
there.
nowhere, as if by magic Alan turned up.
Yeah. Hi, Pete. Did we have a
Hello.
nice
Well,
birthday?
Jan, how are you?
I'm fine, darling. Thank you. Did we have a good birthday?
Don't know.
A week ago.
It was, but yes, it was a birthday. I don't like birthdays, so don't worry.
Precisely. Unremarkable.
That's
Oh, why
that's
don't you let birthdays?
That's the
No,
way.
next year's the biggie, but not this year. Thank
What,
you.
you're 90 next year?
21 again.
36.
Big.
Plus
Shabbat shalom,
VAT.
Adrian.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Hello. Adrian, before I forget,
Shalom, Adrian.
I'd like to invite you to say the prayer for the community, please, if that's okay.
Sorry, Kevin, were you speaking to me or somebody else?
Yes, you. I was actually speaking to you.
That's even more last minute than me. That's amazing.
Okay.
No, it's
Shabbat shalom.
I gather you don't want me to do all three. Which one would you like me
It's
to
the
do?
one for the
middle one.
community. That's the only one.
Sorry, for the community.
Middle one.
The middle
Thank you.
one. And that's all. And then you can go home.
484 to 5.
Are we making Kiddush, Rabbi?
We are indeed.
We are, yes.
I've got a challah and I've got got some.
Lovely.
You know.
Oh, that's just what you need.
I thought we should do it now and get it out of the way.
Can you send it round by Uber, please?
I'll throw it at my computer. How's that?
Good morning, Mike. Bill.
Good morning. How are we?
Good morning. I'm fine, thank you. You?
Good.
Morning, Mike.
Nice.
Oh,
Nice
we
to
lost
see
Val
you.
then. Val's disappeared.
Oh.
Val's having trouble with her email. So it might be her Wi-Fi's up the spout. Leo, darling, how are you?
Why has he got nothing to say?
Because
Very
he's
well, very good.
muted.
No,
Morning,
I'm in the wind outside. I'm sitting in the garden.
Well,
Right.
it's
Quite
a bit
breezy
warmer
there.
inside.
It's just a bit windy, but it's a nice day, isn't it? You know?
It's better than yesterday. If this was yesterday, you'd be next door by now.
Yeah, that's it. Oh no, it was.
Pete,
You've got Wi-Fi in your garden. We don't have
Says
it.
Pete. Somebody did.
I did. Pete, I
Thank
had
you,
a
Rabbi.
message flash across my screen saying that my internet is unstable.
Excellent.
Oh, we get
I'm,
that.
I've
Well, my
never had
internet
that before, ever. And so I'm just warning you, you might have to do the whole service.
Stable. You have a brand
I
new.
must,
Rachel's going off for a game of tennis.
Rachel, I must say I've had that comment a few times from psychiatrists, but normally about my personality.
Yeah, my internet's fine. It's me that's the problem.
Very temperamental, I think so.
Pete, maybe it's your football team.
Oh, don't.
Oh,
No,
God,
that was
It's
mean.
Watford. It's Watford. Oh,
Hi, I'm a Liverpool supporter. I've got nothing to boast about.
but we're Barnet. Me and Alan are
Stacey
Barnet.
Greenberg, Shabbat Shalom, the Friday night rock service. We've got the Friday night rock service watching on our Facebook feed. So there you go. You don't know that. I do. You don't. I'm talking to my congregation at the same time I'm talking to you. It's not very strange.
Oh, we've got
Abby Walton is watching on Facebook. Well, Abby, why don't you put yourself on Zoom? Then we can all see you.
Yeah, I want to see as many people as possible.
Hello, Val. How are you getting on there? Can we hear you, Val?
Hi, Susan. I can't hear you.
Unmute yourself, Susan.
Your lips moving as well, so that's great.
Val, have you pressed start video out of
Unmute.
interest?
She can't hear us either.
No, I don't think she's doing very well. I've just noticed that I'm actually not doing anything until the Ami does. So can I go for a cup of coffee? Come back
No, no, you can't.
Go to the pub.
Cheeky devil.
Because Rachel's could drop out any second now, don't forget. And then I'll have to take the service and you won't want that.
Yeah. Someone needs to tell Val she probably needs to go back out and join and connect to.
I'll send her a chat. I'll send her a chat.
Maybe she's only watching and not participating. I know she said she's going.
She's a well-established Zoomer now, Val.
Okay.
So she probably needs to go back out and come back in with the
I'm going to send her a message.
with the connect to computer audio.
En masse.
Shabbat shalom, Davina.
Shabbat shalom, Rachel. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good, good. Shabbat shalom, Carol and Susan.
Shabbat
shalom,
Susan.
everyone.
Send Val a message. Hello, Davina and Carol.
Hi, Carol. Hi, Carol.
Hello.
It's, hello.
Hello, I can recognise Alan. I'm a good. Just get you on the picture. Hang on.
Hi, Val. Val has given up on Zoom.
I've told her to Oh, I told her to log out and log in again, but I don't know whether.
Oh, she's on Facebook. She can't get sound, she says.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, another one bites the dust.
Are we nearly done
Not
yet?
really bored yet, Pete.
I've already done one service.
Wait for your sermon for a week.
Yeah, it's, I fell asleep writing it actually.
You wrote a sermon? Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Oh, good, you wrote a sermon.
Rachel.
I know that's my influence, Mike. Sorry.
Oh no, thank you. Well, I say that. I
Well,
say
you
that
don't
before
say
having
thank
heard
you
it.
yet.
Wait till you hear it first and then decide. It's the Zatzes.
Welcome to the Zatzes.
Don't forget, Rabbi,
Shabbat
as well as
shalom.
you zooming, as well as you muting us, we can also choose to mute you.
Like Helen Greenberg, but she's
Yeah.
and Vina's on Facebook too. That's greedy. Just doing both is really greedy.
One in each ear.
I have to go on Facebook because of the PDF.
Oh, there's Val. Hi,
Val,
Val.
yeah. Elaine Greenberg.
Shabbat shalom.
Val made it back.
At least her hand is, not like the rest of her.
Hello, Jan.
Hi, Val.
All right.
Val, you're muted, so we can't hear you. Just need to unmute.
Sorry, I said,
There you
Carol,
go.
you're looking fluffed.
Oh, you're Val's on a real computer, not an iPad.
No, Val's on an
What have you
iPad.
done to, what have you done to Val?
Val's disappeared again.
Never touched her.
No, there she is.
Oh, she's back.
Yeah, no, the iPad's a bit iffy.
There's King Leo in the garden. Look at that. He looks like master of all he surveys.
And we have Brigitte. Welcome, Brigitte.
Shabbat shalom, Brigitte.
Thank you.
Like
Hi,
that, these are
Brigitte.
numbers. This is competition. See who can get the most.
Oh, it's not a
I mean,
competition.
I'm competitive. I've never forgiven Elstree for beating us in the inter-synagogue kind of quiz.
Oh, we are.
We never wanted to win because it meant we had to host the next one, so we deliberately lost. That was our excuse.
You only got that through default.
Yeah, that's right. Somebody,
Everybody felt sorry for you.
yeah, plenty feel sorry for. Anyway, we're all in shades.
Oh, there's Stephen. Good.
Oh, good. We need him. He's hello, Stephen, from our show. This is actually the show. This is back.
Shalom, Tina Shaw. I haven't seen you for a long time.
Hello, Tina.
Seen
Hi,
you on
Tina.
Facebook,
Hi, Tina.
not face to face. There you go.
By the way, for anyone who doesn't know, for anyone who didn't know, Tina's husband, Michael, used to teach me at Cheder.
Ah,
Must have been an inspirational
he's got a lot
teacher.
to answer for.
Tina's on mute.
You're muted, Tina.
There, that's Tina.
Then there needs to be an emoji or a hand signal or something that actually says you're on mute.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get if I find one, I'm gonna get that for every meeting or service.
So unfortunately, it seems that people are logging on to Elstree's Zoom to try and get here.
Oh.
Oh, no.
I don't know who it is, but my money's on the shoppers, actually. Good look.
Shabbat shalom, Monique.
Oh, it's Harry.
Hello.
Awesome.
How are you?
All right, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good, good. Shabbat shalom, Harry.
Hello.
Harry,
My
give us,
glasses.
give us a dance with the new hip.
Yeah, show us your hip, Harry. Oh, it's
The hippie shake, whatever it's called.
Harry, you're muted.
This is a new show. Yeah, it's got every time.
I'm mute.
Hi, hop along.
okay. Well, seriously, the person who is trying to watch on Elstree's Zoom is actually a member of Finchley. So
It's,
I don't know what to make of that.
Janet and Alan.
Leave them in the dark, I think.
Oh, that's a shame.
Ros is watching. Rosita is watching. Penny is watching.
Hello, Rosita.
Walked into the wrong shul.
You got lost. We've locked the doors. You can't escape.
So Ros is heading to Cornwall after an overnight stop in Rickmansworth. Oh no, Devon.
There's a bit of a difference.
Well, she
Shabbat
said
shalom, Heftiba.
she said she was staying in Mill End.
Shabbat shalom. Nice to see you. Well, nice to have you with us.
Thank you.
Always.
I'm going to try and impose a little bit of discipline on this. Well, it's nearly 11. It is 11 o'clock.
Yeah,
so-
we tend to we start at the
Thanks,
country
Leo.
Jewish 11 o'clock. We allow a couple of minutes for traffic and other
Why
kinds.
was traffic? Yeah, it's difficult.
Traffic?
Instead, people get delayed on the stairs,
I
things
suppose-
like that.
Well, you guys better get used to allowing 20 minutes for people to find a parking space in the new one.
Yeah. If we could leave it perhaps 2
I'm on
minutes
Let's
past.
try this. Anyway, let's get the spirit moving. We can do this for 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'll hand over to my colleague to do the welcome and the intro, and I'll go and get a cup of coffee. Bim bam bim 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 bam bim 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 bam bim bam bim 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 bam bim 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 bam. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom. Bim bam bim 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 bam bim 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 bam bim bam bim 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 bam bim 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 bam. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom.
Okay, I'm just thank you, Peter. I'm just going to mute everyone now, and apart from the two rabbis and Joseph. So Shabbat shalom, all, and I'll hand you over to Rachel.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. Lovely to see you all, and welcome to this collaborative service of Mosaic Liberal together with Elstree. So I'm delighted to be working with my colleague and friend, Rabbi Pete Tobias. And it's just great to see lots of friends, lots of friendly faces. And I know that there are a lot of sort of cross community friends between the two communities as well. So big welcome to you all, and enjoy the service. So we're going to be reading from Siddur Lev Chadash, if everybody has their Siddur or has it online. I'd also just like to say thank you to Kevin and to Mike before we start, because they're our techie people. So they're going to be making sure, as much as is humanly possible, all goes smoothly. So we're going to begin on page 117, and I'm going to hand over to Joseph now for Matovu.
Good morning, everybody. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Many of you I know. I'm music director at Mosaic Liberal, but hello to everyone that I don't know. And it's lovely to see you here. We'll begin with Matovu.
Matovu ochaleha Yaakov, Ishkanotecha Yisrael. Matovu ochaleha Yaakov, Ishkanotecha Yisrael. ברוב חסדך אבוא ביתך אשתחווה אל חיקך קודשך ביראתך מה טובו אוהליך יעקב משכנותיך ישראל מה טובו אוהליך יעקב משכנותיך ישראל אדוני אהבתי מאוד ביתך מקום משכן כבודך ואני אשתחווה ואקרא אפרחה לפני אדוני עושי מה טובו אוהליך יעקב משכנותיך ישראל מה טובו אוהליך יעקב משכנותיך ישראל ואני תפילתי לך אדוני את רצון אלוהים ברוב חסדך ענני באמת אישך מה טובו אוהליך יעקב משכנותיך ישראל מה טובו אוהליך יעקב משכנותיך
And we're at the foot of page 117, 117. We thank you, O God, for this new day, for morning sun and evening star, for flowering of tree and flowing of tide, for life-giving rains and cooling breezes, for the changing seasons, for the cycle of growth and decay, of life and death. We awake and behold a new day. O God, renew us unto life. Teach us to recognize your presence in creation. Grateful for your gifts, may we dedicate all our powers to your service. And we're going to turn over now to page 135. And again, I'm going to hand over to Joseph for Yishtabach.
ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש, בשמיים ובארץ, כי לך נאה אדוני אלוהינו, ואלוהי אבותינו, שיר ושפחה, הלל וזמרה, ברכות והודאות, מעתה ועד עולם, ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בשירי זמרה.
And on page 136, I know everyone's muted, but still, let's read together. We praise you, Eternal One, our God, Sovereign of the universe, Maker of light and creator of darkness, Author of peace and creator of all things. In your mercy you give light to the earth and all who live on it, and in your goodness you renew creation continually, day by day. How manifold are your works, O God! With wisdom have you made them all. The world is full of your creations. Your handiwork proclaims your praise. The radiant stars bear witness to your glory. We praise you, O God, creator of light. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMeorot. Great is your love for us, eternal God, and abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truths of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching, make us faithful to your commandments, and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you and proclaim your unity. We praise you, O God. In love you have called your people Israel to serve you. Baruch atah Adonai, abocher be'amo Yisrael, be'ahava. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Shem Kavod, Shem Kavod, Malchuto Leolam, Leolam Va'ed.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, v'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol me'odecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher anochi metzavacha hayom al levavecha. V'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam. V'shivtecha beveitecha, uv'lechtecha v'derech, uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha. Ukshartam leot al yadecha, ve'hayu letotafot bein einecha. Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvish arecha. Leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'hitem kadoshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, Lihiyot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Emet v'yatzi v'yashar v'kayam v'tov v'yafeh hadavar hazeh. Good and beautiful and true, sound, established and enduring are these words now and forever. True it is, Eternal One, that you are our sovereign God and Redeemer, as you were the God and Redeemer of our ancestors. You are our Maker, the rock of our salvation. We have known you always as our helper and our liberator. There is no God but you. Truly you are first and you are last. We have no Redeemer but you. You redeemed us from Egypt and freed us from the house of bondage. Then with great joy, Moses, Miriam, and all Israel together sang to you this song.
Chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Chamocha ne'ada b'kodesh, Nora tehilot osef ele, Nora tehilot osef ele. Shirach hadasha shibchu gaulim, Shimcha asfat hayam, Yachad kulam hodu, V'chimlichu ve'yamru, Adonai yimlok le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimlok le'olam va'ed. Zu Yisrael, Kuma bezrat Yisrael, Golenu Adonai tzavaot shemo, Kadosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael.
Now we come to the Amidah on page 140, and I'm just gonna, I don't know if any of you are gonna stand up. I suggest you don't, because you'll disappear off the screen if you do. But here are some, just an introduction to put us in the mood for this prayer. Ya la 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 Adonai. Ya la 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 Tzvatai tiftach. Ya la 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 Ufi yagid hilatecha. Ya la 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 Adonai. Ya na 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 Tzvatai tiftach. Ya na 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 Ufi yagid hilatecha. Ya la 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 Adonai. Ya na 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 Tzvatai tiftach. Ya na 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 Ufi yagid hilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei v'Nehem, L'ma'an Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye meitim atah Rav le'Hoshia. Mashiv haruach u'morid ha'geshem, Mazriach ha'shemesh u'morid ha'tal.
Machalkel hayim b'chesed, Mechaye meitim berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rafeh cholim, U'matir asurim, U'mkayem emunato Mishanei afar. Mi chamocha ba'al gavurot, Umi domer la, Mek meimitum chayei, U'matzmi'a Yeshua. ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים.
We sanctify your name on earth as in the prophet's vision. The hosts of heaven sing your praise above, for so it is written.
Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzavaot, Lo kol haaretz kavodo.
God's glory fills the universe.
Baruch kavod Adonai mimakomo.
In your concealment, majestic one, reveal yourself and rule over us, for you are our hope.
Yimlach Adonai leolam, Elohai Yitzihon, Ledov Adon, Hallelujah. Ledov Adon, Ledov Adon, Ledov Adon, Agid God Lecha, Ledov Adon, Ledov Adon, Ledov Adon, Agid God Lecha, Ulanetach Netzachim, Kedushatcha Nagdish, Kedushatcha Nagdish, B'shivcha Eloheinu, Mipinu lo yamush leolam va'ed. Ledov Adon, Ledov Adon, Ledov Adon, Agid God Lecha, Ledov Adon, Ledov Adon, Ledov Adon, Agid God Lecha, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
You inspired our ancestors to hallow this day for your service. When upon its coming we pause to contemplate our life, we learn anew that we do not live by bread alone, but also by the spiritual nourishment we receive when we open ourselves to your influence. We thank you for the Sabbath day, for the opportunity it offers to enhance the quality of our lives. We thank you for its joy and for its peace. May our worship help us to take into our hearts its message of holiness and consecrate all our days by devotion to what is true, beautiful, and good. And this is the Shabbat song that we incorporate here in Elstree at this point. I'm sure if you don't know it yet, you will very soon. Ma yafe hayom, Shabbat shalom, ma yafe hayom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. You know it now, come on. Ma yafe hayom, Shabbat shalom, ma yafe hayom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. Now let's read together the prayer on page 143. Our God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, eternal one, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts. And may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath. Yotzei Adonai Eloheinu ba'amacha Yisrael, u'tefilatam ba'ahava tekabel, u'til ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai she'otecha levadecha b'yir'ah na'avod. מודים אנחנו לך, שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ואלוהי אבותינו, ואמותינו לעולם ועד. צור חיינו מגן ישענו, אתה הוא לדור ודור. צור חיינו מגן ישענו, אתה הוא לדור ודור. מודים אנחנו לך, שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ואלוהי אבותינו, ואמותינו לעולם ועד. צור חיינו מגן ישענו, אתה הוא לדור ודור. צור חיינו מגן ישענו, אתה הוא לדור ודור. אתה הוא לדור ודור. מודה לך ונספר תהילתך על חיינו המסורים בידיך ועל נשמותינו הפקודות לך, ועל ניסיך שבכל יום עמנו, ועל נפלאותיך וטובותיך שבכל עת ערב ובוקר וצהריים. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך, ולך נאה להודות. Grant peace, welfare, and blessing, grace, love, and mercy to us and to all Israel, your people. As a loving parent, bless us with the light of your presence. By the light of your presence, eternal God, you have revealed to us the law of life, a love of kindness and righteousness, blessing and mercy, life and peace. For it is good in your sight that your people Israel and all peoples be blessed at all times with your gift of peace. Praise you, O God, the source of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, Oseh Hashalom. Let's just take a moment of silence to reflect on this Shabbat, this day of rest that we're celebrating together. How fortunate we are to be able to celebrate together even in these in unusual and extraordinary times. New opportunities present themselves. So let us reflect on that and the week and the days that lie ahead as we approach the High Holy Days. Yeheyu l'ratzon imrefi v'hegyon libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, v'goali, v'goali, yehu l'ratzon, Imrefi v'hegyon lebi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, v'goali, v'goali.
Oseh shalom bimrama, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol bnei Adam. Oseh shalom bimrama, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol bnei Adam. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol bnei Adam.
Some good dancing there by the Mosaic Liberal. Well done. You're well trained.
And over to Pete.
So just to say, we're now continuing with our Torah service. The Torah service will be on page 481. Page 481.
Ein kamocha va'Elohim Adonai, va'ein kamasecha, malchutcha malchut, kol olamim, umemshaltecha b'chol dor vador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai oz le'amo yiten, Adonai yevarech et amo b'shalom.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlu Adonai iti, uneromama Shemo Yachta.
Lacha Adonai Hagadula, V'Hagavura, V'Hatiferet, V'Hanetzavahot, Kichol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Kichol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Lacha Adonai ha'mamlacha b'mitnaseh lahol larosh.
So welcome to our Torah reading, and first of all, a little word of explanation both to Mosaic congregants and to the Elstree ones too. As some of you know, certainly the Elstree people know, we're doing a very different Torah reading schedule. We are spreading our Torah readings over 3 years, and so we spent the whole of this year just working our way through Genesis. So while the rest of the Jewish world is halfway through the book of Deuteronomy, heading towards Simchat Torah, we are still with Joseph in Egypt, and we have had a series of episodes in Joseph's life, and we just got to the point where he has just interpreted the Pharaoh's dreams, and so the story is going to move on from there. So, but sadly, or maybe it'll increase the anticipation, we'll have to wait another week before we hear the results of Joseph's interpretations and what happens next between him and his brothers, because we're moving today to be in the regular place, the regular Torah reading, and the Torah portion for this week is Shoftim, which means judges. This section of the book of Deuteronomy is an intriguing one. Take a look at the time. I could go on for several hours about the book of Deuteronomy, as my congregation knows, and I can see various members of them shaking their heads and diving for cover. So I won't. But what I'll simply say is this: the book of Deuteronomy is, no, I won't even say that. It was written by a number of scribes who lived in Jerusalem around the time of King Josiah. And there are 3 bits to Deuteronomy. There's the first bit, which is Moses telling everybody what's happened to them and how they ought to behave themselves once they enter into the land which God has given to them. And he tends to drone on a bit. I mean, I do feel sorry for the Israelites. They've slept through the wilderness for all those years. They're in sight of their destination. And this old man, who's 120 now, is standing up and lecturing them for what must be a couple of hours before they're finally able to get across the border into their new homeland. But he's Moses, we'll tolerate him. So the first section, the first 11 chapters or so, is a list of what's happened to them, the details of what's happened to them, and what they must do once they cross over into the land. And then there's a real change when it gets to chapter 12, and it just becomes a list of all the things, all the laws they must observe, all the various ideas they must implement once they enter into the land. It has a very different style to it. And interestingly, at no point between chapter 12 and chapter 27 of the book of Deuteronomy is Moses mentioned. Theoretically, he's reciting it all, but in fact, this was clearly something that was written by someone else at a different point and kind of inserted into the middle of the story. So we're in the middle of that section right now. All the different rules and regulations, what you must do once you enter into the land. And then the end of Deuteronomy, which we're going to get to, or you're going to get to, we're going to get to in about 3 years, but you're going to get to in a few weeks' time, it's basically the warning. So Moses says, okay, guys, I've told you what you have to do. You've seen all the rules and the regulations, and this is what will happen if you don't obey them. And it's full of some fairly gruesome predictions of what's going to happen to the Israelites if they fail to observe those laws. But we're not on there yet. We're simply on the laws at the moment and the sets of laws. The Parsha Shoftim, the name Shoftim means judges. And it's about establishing judges and establishing justice in the land that you are going in to enter. That's the initial part of the chapter. But I'd like to read a little bit from the next chapter, actually, from chapter 17, before we go back to that bit, because this is there's another fantastic example of how this book has been written much later than the time it's purported to be being related. I'll read the story of what your king, if you decide to establish a king, and then I'll explain where it really belongs. But for now, I've already talked too much and I'm in trouble, so I will say no more, and I will simply call up our Aliyah Ya'amod Michael Ben Chaim L'Kriyat HaTorah.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach, Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Li'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachabanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen. So if you're following it in any sort of Chumash, I can't give you the page references, but I can tell you we're on Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 14 to start off this morning. And if anybody's got a book, maybe they can tell us the page number, or you can message everybody else and tell them. I've got it right here in this thing in front of me. Ki tavo el haaretz asher Adonai Elohecha noten lach, v'yirishta v'yeshavta ba, v'amarta asima alai melech kechol hagoyim asher sevivotai. Som tasim alecha melech asher yivchar Adonai Elohecha bo, mikerev achecha tasim alecha. Melech lo tuchal latet alecha ish nochri asher lo achicha hu. So if you once you've entered the land and that the Lord, the Eternal One, your God, is giving to you, and you've inherited it and you've settled there, and you say to yourselves, maybe we should set a king over ourselves like all the other nations around about us. Then you must make sure that the king that you establish for yourselves is one who is chosen by the Eternal One, your God, from among your own brethren, your own people. This is the place from where you shall establish your king. You are not allowed to choose a foreigner to set over you as a king. It must be someone who is among your brothers. And of course, it has to be a king. No queens possible. Rak lo yibre lo susim v'lo yashiv et ha'am mitzrayma l'ma'an harbot sus. But the one thing he shouldn't do is he shouldn't try and increase the number of horses that he has and take the people back down to Egypt, which presumably is where the horses come from, in order to increase his cavalry, the number of horses in his possession. Because God has said to you, never again will you go in that direction. Et mishnei haTorah hazot al sefer milifnei hakohanim haleviim. This is a great line. This sort of tells us all sorts of things that were happening in the future, or happening in the future from the idea of this being Moses' perspective. And when he is sitting on his throne, he shall write out for himself a copy of these laws, which shall be written out for him, rather, into a book. And this will be done in front of the Kohanim, priests and the Levites. It shall be with him the whole time. But karavo kol yamei chayav, and he shall read it all the days of his life. Lema'an yilmod leyir'a et Adonai Elohecha, lishmo et kol divrei haTorah hazot, vet hachukim ha'ele la'asotam. And we should study it all the time in order that he learns to fear the Eternal One, his God, and observes all the words of this Torah, this teaching. It's the actual word Torah is right there. And all the statutes that are contained within it, and do them. Levilti rum levavo me'echa ulevilti sur min hamitzvah yamin usmol lema'an ya'aricha yamim al mamlachto hu uvanav bekerev Yisrael. And so he should do this in order that his heart does not grow proud and he becomes arrogant. But he should and then depart. He should not depart from these teachings, these commandments, to the left or to the right, in order that his days shall be lengthened on the land, him and his children in the midst of Israel. Now, the reason that's really fascinating, I think, is that as with so many of the things that we hear when we read the book of Deuteronomy, in this section particularly, when it says, if you get to the place and you decide you're going to put a king upon yourselves and do this, it means that's exactly what they did. And if it says he shouldn't go down to Egypt and get horses for himself, it means that's exactly what the king did. This is a description of what King Solomon did. Okay, King Solomon was established as the king. He went down to Egypt and tried to build up his cavalry and his infantry and made all sorts of connections with Egypt. So this is a critique of King Solomon. And although it's placed back in the mouth of Moses, who wouldn't know who Solomon was, nevertheless, this is what we're looking at. This is the reality that is being predicted, because the authors of the text actually knew that this had already happened, and they were criticizing the behavior of Solomon. And of course, the Israelites having chosen a king in the first place. That was something that they shouldn't do. And the words, in fact, if you decide that you want a king, let's set a king above us, like all the other nations around about us, exactly the same words that the people come to Samuel the prophet and say at the very moment when they decide they want a king. So there's a lot of connections there, and that's a phrase which would be well known to the people listening to it. But anyway, back to the first bit of this morning's portion, back to the chapter 16, verse 18. Shoftim v'shotrim titen lecha b'chol sha'arecha asher Elohecha noten lach l'shvatecha v'shoftu et ha'am mishpat tzedek, and you shall establish officers and judges for yourself within all your gates, the gates of the towns in which the Eternal One will enable you to settle in, and they shall judge the people, and they shall do so with judgments of righteousness. Lo tateh mishpat, lo takir panim, v'lo tikach shochad, ki hashochad yivavel einei chachamim, v'yisalef divrei tzadikim. So you shall not be unfair in your justice, and you shouldn't be turned by anybody trying to persuade you. And you should not take a bribe, because a bribe will strike out, will blind the eyes of the wise, and will pervert the words of the righteous. And then one of the most famous lines in the Torah, tzedek, tzedek tirdof, justice, justice shall you pursue. L'ma'an tihiyeh v'rishta et ha'aretz asher Elohecha noten lach. You shall pursue justice in order that you shall live, and you shall inherit the land which the Eternal One, your God, is giving to you. So those two sections from this morning's portion, talking about justice, perhaps the most important emphasis, but also, as I say, I think that interesting piece where it says, don't set the king above you, when the authors and indeed the audience knew that that's exactly what they had done, and they were being told off for having made that decision. That's the end. I could go on longer.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Baruch shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael b'kedusha tov.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Joseph. Mike, I'd like to share the screen so that we can see the Haftarah that Stephen's going to read. Can we go back to gallery view?
Yeah, you should be able to do it.
Here we are. Share screen. Okay. So in a moment, Stephen Sanderson is going to read for us our Haftarah from the prophet Isaiah. And chapters 40 to 55 of Isaiah are considered to have been written by an unknown author known as Deutero-Isaiah, or Second Isaiah, who lived in Babylon during the days of exile in the 6th century BCE. And in this week's message, which is the fourth prophecy of 7 Haftarot of consolation, which are read after Tisha B'Av, on which we remember the destruction of the temples in Jerusalem, and leading us up to Rosh Hashanah, God comforts the exiled people with the announcement of a return to Zion and the redemption of Jerusalem. The nation of Israel will be transformed and restored to the dignity of freedom and nationhood. God's power will be visible for all to see, and the relationship between God and Israel will be fully restored. Well, on Thursday evening and yesterday during the day, we entered the new month of Elul, the month that leads us up to the new year. And in the second part of the Haftarah, the people are exhorted to seek the Eternal One, and they are called to repentance, to turn away from wickedness and turn towards God, who is quick to forgive and faithful to keep the promises made to redeem the people. The return from Babylonian exile will be like a second Exodus, and the Haftarah concludes with one of my favorite images in the Torah. It's a vision of God leading the people back to their homeland with joy and singing. It's really a wonderful, joyous image with the mountains and the hills singing and the trees of the field clapping their hand. And so, hand over now to Stephen for the Haftarah.
Thank you, Rachel. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'nevi'im tovim, v'ratzah b'divreihem, הנאמרים באמת. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בתורה ובמשה עבדו, ובישראל עמו, ובנביאי האמת בצדק. How beautiful on the mountain are the feet of the herald who proclaims peace, the messenger of good tidings, who proclaims deliverance, who tells Zion, your God reigns. Listen, your watchmen raise their voices. Together they shout for joy. For every eye shall see the return of the eternal God to Zion. Raise a shout together, you ruins of Jerusalem. For the Eternal will comfort the people and will redeem Jerusalem. The Eternal will bear God's holy arm in the sight of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our God. Seek the Eternal One while there is still time. Call out while God is near. Let the wicked forsake their ways, and the sinful their thoughts. Let them return to the Eternal, who will show them compassion. To our God, who is quick to forgive. For my thoughts are not like yours, nor are your ways like mine, says the Eternal One. For high as the heavens above the earth, so are my ways high above your ways, and my thoughts above your thoughts. Just as rain and snow come down from the sky without returning, but water the earth, making it blossom and bear fruit, yielding seed for sowing and bread to eat, so it is with the word that comes from my mouth. It does not return to me unfulfilled, without having accomplished my desire and achieved what I send it to do. For you shall go out in joy, you shall be led forth in peace. Before you, mountains and hills shall break out in joyous song, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, sur kol haolamim, tzaddik v'kol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer v'oseh, ha'medaber u'makayem, shekol davarav emet v'tzedek. Al haTorah v'al ha'avodah v'al hanvi'im v'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, kenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha v'limnucha l'chavod u'letifaret. Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach u'mabarachim otach, yitbarach shimcha b'fi kol chai tamid le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Makadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. Thank you, Stephen.
Okay, so now thank you, Stephen. We're now on page 484, and we carry on with the prayer for the royal family.
Eternal God, whose dominion embraces the universe, we ask your blessing for our sovereign lady, Queen Elizabeth, and all the royal family, for those who govern our country and all who influence the quality of its national life. Make them conscious of their responsibility and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion in this country a society that excels in freedom and justice, tolerance and compassion, so that it may be a force for righteousness and peace in the life of humanity.
Adrian?
Eternal God, as you blessed our ancestors in generations past, bless now this congregation, its leaders and its members, and all who went to this synagogue to meet, to study, and to pray. Comfort the sorrowing hearts among us, and heal those in anxiety or pain. May we all find here community and friendship, renewal of purpose and hope, a deeper understanding of our heritage, and a sense of your abiding presence. Bless all congregations of the House of Israel throughout the world. Let those who live under oppressive rule soon be freed, and may we all unite to witness to your truth and do your will.
Eternal God, our rock and redeemer, grant blessing to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream and to be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and citizens with faithfulness to the aims of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all its inhabitants and to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbours, and cause to come true once more the ancient vision that out of Zion shall go forth Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem.
Yahalelu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado.
Odo al eretz v'shamayim v'yarem keren ve'amo ve'hila l'chol chasida livnei Yisrael am karov. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. כי לכתוב נתתי לכם, תורתי אל תעזוב. עץ חיים היא, ומחזיקים בה, ותומכך מאושר. Shalom, Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Yameinu v'kedem Chadesh Yameinu k'kedem
So, Shabbat Shalom to everyone, whichever of the congregations you belong to. And it's a real pleasure to have this opportunity. I know that the Elstree congregation will be a little stunned because, as was mentioned earlier in a pre-service conversation, I've written a sermon. I don't think I've done that for the last 3.5 months, 4 months, whatever. But anyway, I was prompted to do so because my colleague said she'd written one. So therefore I had to match up. And Rachel explained to me, in fact, that when there was a previous shared service, there were 3 rabbis and each of them had written 1,000 words and given their sermons. And Rachel confided to me yesterday that she'd written 1,020. So I've done 980 to make sure we don't go on for too long. So many of you who know me are aware that I have a particular source from which I draw inspiration for my sermons. And if you don't yet know, well, see if you can guess. I wish to register a complaint. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Monty Python's Parrot Sketch, where John Cleese argues with the pet shop owner, Michael Palin, who has recently sold him a dead parrot. A wonderful argument ensues between the two men, but sadly, time does not allow me to share any more of it with you. Suffice to say that John Cleese's complaint is eventually upheld. And in a live version of the sketch, after Michael Palin checks to see if he has another parrot around the back, Cleese turns to the audience and says, if you want to get anything done in this country, you have to complain and complain until you're blue in the face. Complaining. We Jews have always been pretty good at complaining. No sooner had our ancestors left Egypt than they were complaining about the lack of food and water in the desert. Then they complained about the manna, and that was just in the book of Exodus. The book of Numbers, which contains many more complaints, ought to have a subtitle. It should be called the Book of Whinging. And the modern descendants of those complaining ancestors, that's us, we keep up that tradition. Witness the weary waiter approaching the table of Jewish diners and asking in a very resigned tone, "Ladies and gentlemen, is anything all right?" But complaining seems to work. John Cleese managed to convince the pet shop owner that his parrot was indeed dead and should be replaced. He had been sold something faulty. He complained. He got a replacement. Well, it was a slug, but it was a kind of replacement. But the result of his argument in the pet shop was that he got justice. The key theme of our Torah portion this morning was the pursuit and the establishment of justice. I don't suppose the authors of Deuteronomy were thinking of a strange man in a pet shop when they wrote the verse, Tzedek, Tzedek tirdof, justice, justice shall you follow. They probably had slightly loftier aims. But if we take John Cleese's character's words that the only way to get anything done is to complain, then complaining is a key element of establishing justice. And we've always been pretty good at it. I haven't been able to find the exact quote, but I remember reading somewhere, and I know that someone once said, that a key element of being Jewish is to see that the world is not as good as it could or should be, and then to take the responsibility to do our part to make it better in whatever way we can. And this is a world in which there is much injustice and considerable inequality. It's true today, and it was true almost 3,000 years ago when our ancestors brought their sacrifices to the temples in Jerusalem and in Beit El. The prophet Amos stood at Beit El and berated the worshippers on God's behalf. Hear this and testify against the descendants of Jacob, declares the Eternal One, God Almighty. On the day I punish Israel for her sins, I will destroy the altars of Beit El. The horns of the altar will be cut off and fall to the ground. I will tear down the winter house along with the summer house. The houses adorned with ivory will be destroyed, and the mansions will be demolished, declares the Eternal One. Or, to put it another way, God sends Amos to the people of Israel in order to lodge a complaint about the equality between rich and poor in their society. And a few decades later, the prophet Isaiah arrived at the temple in Jerusalem to tell the people that God was unhappy with their behavior and would not take any notice of their prayers unless and until they established justice in their society. When you spread out your hands, I hide my eyes from you. Even when you offer many prayers, I am not listening. Your hands are full of blood. Wash and make yourselves clean. Take your evil deeds out of my sight. Stop doing wrong. Learn to do right. Seek justice. Defend the oppressed. Take up the cause of the orphan and plead the case of the widow. We liberal Jews look to the prophets of ancient Israel as our inspiration. These were people who saw that terrible things were going on in the society in which they lived and took it upon themselves to speak up and complain about it. They weren't as theatrical or as comical as John Cleese, although Isaiah did have something Pythonesque about him with some of his antics. He named his sons to make political points, calling his oldest Sha'ar Yashuv, meaning a remnant shall return, referring to the destruction of Israel, and his youngest, Mahashalal Hashbaz, which means speedy booty, hasty spoil. Imagine calling him in for tea. And he also spent 3 years walking naked through the streets of Jerusalem. Sounds like the basis for an excellent Monty Python sketch. But although there are lessons to be drawn from Python sketches, life is a little more serious than that. And for me, the essence of being Jewish resides in the message of that quote I can't source. To be a Jew, to be a liberal Jew, means to look at the world and see what is wrong with it, And while that may be the paltry amount of smoked salmon in your bagel, it should also be the screaming inequality of our modern world. And having registered our complaint about these injustices, we should determine to follow them through, to complain and complain until we finally get something done to make the world a little better, and not simply take "he's pining for the fields" as an answer to our complaint.
Thanks, Pete. And I have to apologise because actually, in the end, my sermon bit has turned out to be 1,036 words. So I'm sorry, I've gone over slightly.
Just ignore the last 16 words I said then.
Well, and also we almost offered you the dead sheep sketch, but believe me, you can be very thankful that we did not subject you to that. So Pete and I both decided that we would each write something about justice. And so here's what I offer to you. The concern for justice is a key value in Judaism and a key theme of the Torah portion that Rabbi Pete read today. One of the most famous quotes in the Torah comes from Abraham, who, when God threatens to destroy the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah because of their wickedness, cried, "Hashofet kol haaretz lo ya'aseh mishpat," shall the judge of all the earth not act justly? A familiar symbol for justice in the Western world, of course, is Lady Justice, often depicted with a blindfold and holding a sword and scales. The blindfold showing us that justice is to be dispensed with impartiality, the sword with firmness and strength, and the scales with fairness and equity. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof lema'an tichiyeh, justice, justice shall you pursue in order that you may live. We heard already this morning from the Torah. It's a phrase that has become something of a watchword in our religion. Fairness, strength, impartiality, equity, integrity, all are values essential to successfully achieving a just and lawful society. And justice is one of the principal themes of the High Holy Day season. The image of God as King, judging the people, fills our liturgy during Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. But the days of awe also teach us that justice must be balanced by the aspect of rachamim, compassion. God is Avinu, our merciful Father, full of compassion for his children, as well as Malkeinu, our King who makes demands on his subjects, calling them to be the best they can be. The Torah's enumeration of God's qualities in Exodus 34, Adonai, Adonai El Rachum V'Chanun, in that the very first quality listed is the quality of mercy, of compassion. And according to the rabbis, it was that same quality, the quality of mercy, the compassion that Moses showed to the sheep in his care, that determined his fitness to shepherd God's flock, the children of Israel. Justice without compassion is not necessarily true justice at all. In today's Torah portion, the Israelites are told, even when they go into battle, to show mercy to humans and trees alike. When you approach a town to attack it, you shall offer it terms of peace. And you must not destroy its fruit-bearing trees. The judges are to govern the people with mishpat tzedek, righteous justice. And when the people are settled in the land and have a king to rule over them, as Pete read for us earlier, he must keep a copy of this Torah with him and study it all his life, observe it, learn to revere God, and deal fairly and justly with his fellows. Perhaps the prime goal of Judaism is to cultivate the quality of mercy in ourselves. Most of the biblical social laws appear to be driven by the need for compassion, to protect the poor, the widow, the fatherless, the deaf, the blind, the slave, the stranger, the animals in our care. Too many examples to mention, but one typical rule capturing the essence of right tinged with compassion is the biblical law that instructs the person who has received a poor person's garment in pledge for a loan to return the garment to him at night time, so that he may not suffer cold or discomfort. The item of clothing still acts as a guarantee, but it is returned to the poor borrower when he most needs it. The need for a balance between justice and compassion is explained in the Midrash with a parable. There was a king who had delicate crystal goblets. He said, "If I pour hot water into them, they will expand and burst. If I pour cold water into them, they will contract and shatter." So what did the king do? He mixed hot water with cold, poured the water into the cups, and they did not break. And so it was with God. When it came time to create the world, God reflected, "If I create the world with the attribute of compassion alone, there will be an overflow of wrongful acts. No one will be afraid of punishment. But if I create the world with justice alone, how could the world endure? It would shatter from the harshness. So I will create it with both justice and compassion, and it will endure." Well, in our daily lives, we may not have to make the kind of momentous decisions that governments, politicians, and judges must make, but on a personal level, we will certainly have situations with family members, neighbours, colleagues, or even strangers that will test our ability to temper justice with compassion, and that require a measure of mercy or consideration for others. Showing mercy can diffuse difficult situations and can even dissolve enmity, as this rabbinic story shows. Two donkey drivers who hated each other were going down a road when the donkey belonging to one could no longer bear its load. The other driver saw this and at first walked by. But then he remembered the biblical verse, "If you see the donkey of one who hates you lying under its burden, you must release it with him." And so he returned and he helped his enemy in loading and unloading. Then peace came between them. The two entered an inn, ate and drank together, and became fast friends. Justice is an eternal religious obligation, the very essence of what it means to be Jewish. The great Albert Einstein commented, "The pursuit of knowledge for its own sake, an almost fanatical love of justice, and the desire for personal independence, these are the features of the Jewish tradition which make me thank my stars that I belong to it." Returning to the figure of Lady Justice, the symbol of the scales that she holds urges us to temper our judgments with compassion. And so in our lives and our relationships, through this month of Elul and the approaching High Holy Days, may God give us the wisdom and the courage we need to achieve just the right balance in our judgments, not only of others, but of ourselves too. Amen. And so before we turn to the Aleinu to conclude our service on page 520, I'm going to hand back to Pete for a Mishe Berach. Pete.
So this is a thank you, Rachel. I have another 16 words, if I may. This is a blessing that is traditionally recited at the end of the Torah service. It's offered to a variety of people. It has a number of places it can go. We've sung it pretty much every day since lockdown started here at Elstree. It asks for blessing for those who need refuah, those who need healing, whether it be spiritual, whether it be physical. But it also asks God to give us the courage to make our lives a blessing. So it doesn't ask God for blessing so much, as simply to give us the ability to do what we can to make our lives a blessing. Mishe Berach Avoteinu Makor HaBaracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishabera imote Mako Abaracha Leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Thank you, Pete. And so we turn now to the concluding part of our service, the Aleinu, on page 520. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer bereshit, asher sam chelkeinu yached et shemo, v'kor aleinu lehamlich malchuto, va'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu notze shamayim veyosed haaretz, u'moshav yekaru b'shamayim imal, u'shchinatu zo, v'gofei meramim, Hu Eloheinu ein od, emet malkeinu efes ulato, Ka'katuv b'Torato, v'yadata hayom v'hashevota el levavecha, ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim b'shamayim mimal, ve'al haaretz mitachat ein od. And at the foot of page 521, it has been said, the eternal God shall rule over all the earth. On that day, the eternal God shall be one and known to be one.
ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
Over to you, Pete.
My back is about to die. Can you do this bit?
Yes, of course. Do you have any yard sites, Pete?
Nope.
Okay. So we're on page 523. Life is finite. Like a candle, it burns, it glows, it is radiant with warmth and beauty. Then it fades, its substance is consumed, and it is no more. Yet we do not despair, for we know that we are more than a flickering flame. With our lives, we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and light, of death and life. And in the Mosaic liberal community, we remember on the occasion of their yahrzeits, Jacques Gilbert, the father of Robert Gilbert, and Charlie Spielvogel, the father of Bernard Spielvogel. And I just saw a message in the chat from Kat. It's the yahrzeit of her grandmother Edith Weller, and we remember her today. Are there any other names? If anyone would like to unmute themselves and mention any names, then please feel free to do that just now. As in our hearts we name our loved ones, we pray that the divine presence will comfort us and all who mourn. And we say together on page 524, Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach yir'utei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chaye chon u'v'yomei chon, u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam u'la'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei dekudashah barichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabbah min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol b'nei Adam, ve'imru. Amen. May the Most High Source of perfect peace grant peace to us, to all Israel, and to all humanity. And let us say, Amen. So I don't know if anyone has got any announcements before we go into our concluding song. Kevin or Mike, do you have any announcements for your communities?
Not so much an announcement. A massive thank you to both Rabbi, Rachel and Pete for the collaborative service. It was absolutely wonderful between you. You worked really well together, and I feel less nervous about the high holy days now. I mean, it can work. So thank you both. I also would like to wish Kat long life and strength. Kat, who I've actually met in person sort of a while back, and we hope to see you again. And also thank you, Joseph. I always get nervous when I get some private chat, but all the private chat was actually complimenting what a wonderful singer Joseph is. You haven't actually seen the messages, but I got some very positive feedback as the service was going on. So thank you very much, Joseph. And on the subject of announcements, Joseph, I believe you're taking the service next Saturday.
The Mosaic Liberal.
I think that's correct. Yes.
Yes, so good. I'm glad you said that. So if you've got a little bit of a following, Joseph, so who knows, we might get a few extra. Is there any other announcements from?
Can I just throw in that for Elstree and indeed anyone who wants to get onto the Elstree Facebook group, just let me know. We've got Havdalah at 6:30 this evening, and also we're putting it at 6 o'clock to give you a chance to watch it before services. Every evening in Elul there'll be a little YouTube video to hopefully inspire a bit of thinking and reflection as we make our way towards the High Holy Days. That's on our YouTube channel, the Liberal Synagogue Elstree YouTube channel, one every night at 6 o'clock every evening, where you can watch it anytime you like. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Pete. So thanks to you and thanks to everyone who participated today. And we are going to conclude with Yaribon on page 647. So over to you, Joseph.
Yaribon alam ve'almaya ve'almaya Antum malka melek malkaya melek malkaya Ovad gavuratek v'timhaya Shafir kadmak lechavaya Yaribon alam ve'almaya ve'almaya Antum malka melech malkaya, melech malkaya. Shavchin asade safra v'ramsha, safra v'ramsha. Lakelacha kadisha divara, kol nafsha. Irin kadishin uvanei ensha, hevat bara v'ofei shamaya. Yarban alam ve'almaya, ve'almaya. Antro malka melech malkaya, melech malkaya. Rafifin otayich otayich v'takifin. Makech ramaya v'zakef kefikim v'zakef kefifin. Lu yehei kava shanin alafin. Lo yohel gavuratek b'chushbana. Yaribon alam ve'almaya, ve'almaya. Anatru malka melech malkaya, melech malkaya. Yaribon alam ve'almaya, ve'almaya. Antru malka melech malkaya, melech malkaya.
That deserved a round of applause if it was kind of appropriate to do it.
So I think Peter and I are going to do a couple of concluding blessings, and then we'll go into Kiddush.
We can do that.
Yes.
So, to end here, Adonai Yishmor Tzeitenu Uvo'enu Me'atava Adonai. Pray that God will guard our going out and our coming in now and always. Amen.
Amen. מי ששיכן את שמו בבית הזה, הוא ישכין בינינו אהבה ואחווה, shalom ורעות. And may the one whose presence was felt very, very much so in this virtual joint synagogue that we created today, cause love and harmony, peace and friendship to dwell among us. Amen.
And Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Now for Kiddush, you've got permission to unmute yourself and make as much noise as possible.
Here we go, everybody.
Just reciting it. Does someone quickly get their wine collar or whatever their tipple is? Or just a little, I think a few people are just getting there.
Yeah, I'm with you. Don't worry.
Oh, Janet, what's 9 o'clock in the Solomon household?
You got it.
Rain stop play.
Oh,
Janet.
I'm Watford got relegated. Oops, sorry.
Please don't upset our rabbi.
Now, treasurer.
Okay, let's get the party started. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, l'dorotam berit olam, v'hiyu ben b'nei Yisrael, oti le'olam, sheshet yahim, asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et haaretz, v'yom ha-shvi'i, Shabbat Vayidafash. Brilliant echo in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Come back, Leo. How you doing? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri
Wait, mate.
Amen. All together, 1, 2, 3.
Walter.
Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah.
And
Chamotzi. Anyone got any nice?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem.
Amen.
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 Share it round, Pete.
Welcome back, Leo.
you. There was no hitches whatsoever.
How was your other service?
It's still going on. It's Renee, so it'll be going on a long time.
John, if you really want another service, you could sort of, if you give us the link, you get to.
I'm going to stop the live stream.
Shabbat shalom, Leo.
Thanks, Leo.
Oh, I can't. Kevin? Can you stop the live stream?
Okay, right.
I can do it.
Everyone on live stream.
No.
Shabbat shalom. I'm going